An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to I forgot what the name of the show is. It's Comic Book Team Up with myself and RJ. And since I've been doing a terrible job of recruiting guests for the past 2 weeks, I'm throwing out the link if anybody wants to pop in and talk about comics with us. But RJ, watching your trailer made me think of something. Transported it. Did I lose you?
Yeah, you're digitizing on me. I'm not sure why.
Oh, yeah, I think it's me. I think there's something happening over here. But I was asking, since watching your trailer, I thought of this. What would be your hand-to-hand weapon of choice if you were transported into a fantasy world?
Bill Hook.
A what?
Bill Hook.
I love the way you answered so quick, like you've thought about this while
yeah, I use Bill Hook a lot when I'm out in the woods, when I'm cutting trees and things like that and limbing stuff. And it is the perfect weapon. I mean, if you put it on a pole, which is what Bill Hooks as weapons usually were put on, would be amazing. I mean, you fight zombies, you could medieval battle, you could do anything with it.
Oh, okay. I as you were talking, I was looking up a Bill Hook, and then it said this is a Bill Hook pole arm.
Yes.
So we'll go right into is that's something you would use?
Yep. Spear, okay. Hook, sword, all in one.
Oh, there you go. And it keeps those pesky goblins at a distance.
Yep.
RJ, I don't know if this, stop me if this is not okay to talk about, but RJ was planning on coming to visit me this weekend, and I was gonna do a one-shot role-playing game. We're gonna make up fantasy characters, let you know, but someday in the future. So I guess your character would have a Bill Hook. Would that be something a ranger would use? Because you always say you like to play a ranger.
Well, yes and no. Like I said, I'm out in the woods all the time. I use a Bill Hook, just a hand Bill Hook, not the polearm one, all the time for clearing. It's much better than a machete for clearing, especially if you're in deciduous kind of forests like I am.
Okay. I told you that I bought this Viking woodcutter sword. It's a sword for chopping wood.
Right.
Yeah. I told you I used it, and it was like just difficult as hell. I spent and I actually bought an axe to use, but it was, I don't know, you cannot chop wood with a sword. It's something about the leverage is off.
Nope. I got the best you want hatchets, go for SOG. SOG is a really good hatchet. That's probably your best bet besides the Bill Hook if you want to cut things down for limbs. But machete, not very good for the kind of trees that we have. So Bill Hook all the way, hatchet secondary, I'd say.
Okay. So now we got the important stuff out of the way. RJ and I, you found this website, Mike's Amazing World of Comics, and it's just so much fun. It was last week we did this on your channel, right?
Yeah.
We showed these comics, and I don't know, just something about all of these comics. So I just put in what month is this? This is January.
I'm gonna say, yeah, because you got Big Bertha there in the middle. So yeah.
Oh, you want to guess? Do you know what year?
Big Bertha? I'm gonna say 85, not 6. That'd be my guess.
Oh, wow. Good job. 1985. I just put this in because I think we stopped at 84 when we were on your channel. And I'm just looking at all of these glorious covers. I mean, is there any wonder we became comic book freaks? Just look at these A's, you know? And stop me if there's any comic you want me to look at, but like, you know, obviously these 2000 ADs, I kind of missed that. That was UK, so I don't really know the 2000. I don't really know Judge Dredd in the comics too well. There was a few comics, but look
Alien Legion 6. I think that's the first run. Not sure. Might be.
You know, this was a comic that the only thing I don't like about this website is it's hard. You can't get these big.
Yeah.
You know, but this comic, I just recently, when I say recently, I'm talking about 6-7 months ago, I bought a full run of Alien Legion, but I got so many comics. I didn't read it yet, but Chuck Dixon just talks, you know, he wrote some, but at 1985, I didn't really like science fiction in comics. I wanted superheroes.
That's where I was introduced to Strowman. Strowman's beautiful art started off in Alien Legion for me and then moved on into X-Force after that. But the great thing, I did an entire video a long time ago about Alien Legion, the second series, because Archie Goodwin does a letter page at the very first of the back of the front cover saying this comic died in its first volume because it wasn't what the audience wanted, and it had to die a natural death that way. And I love the fact that he just came straight out and said it.
Oh, first off, I want to address Old Dirty Fatty. He said the bill hook started as a farm tool, then it became a very effective melee weapon. I think that most of the weapons, with the exception of like the sword, started out as farmers' weapons, right? They were the most common, like most pole arms and were
well, if you're going to levy troops, many of them are just going to have tools as weapons anyways, right?
Yeah, you always see the when they're going after Frankenstein's monster, they all got pitchforks and stuff. That because that's what the average peasant had. You know, I imagine a sword. You know, sword required training. It required a lot of work to create. So swords, no wonder that became like the standard fantasy weapon, but it's probably the more rarer weapon, I would imagine. Now that I have a little bit more education into the background of this.
Makes me think of what is it? Ultima, Super Nile. It was a great video game, but one of the major weapons that you could get at the first of the game was called the Hoe of Destruction. It was the garden tool.
Yeah, makes sense. So again, if anybody wants to pop in and talk with RJ and myself, talk about comics, you know, that's it's supposed to be. It's about comics. So back to Alien Legion. I skipped this series because, in my way of thinking, as a stupid kid, movies did science fiction the best, but movies and TV couldn't do superheroes yet. You know, I don't think the special effects like now. It's kind of funny because when you watch the first Marvel movies, like when you watch. And I'll even say like Pirates of the Caribbean with what's his name, the Flying Dutchman guy, Davy Jones. That was flawless CGI. They did superheroes perfectly, and now it seems like it's starting to degenerate. I guess they're skimping on the quality, but like, you know, now movies can do superheroes as well as I would like. But as a kid, only movies did science fiction. So I didn't get science fiction comics. And
funny you should say that, because the reason why I was attracted to Alien Legion to begin with, because the main character is basically a snake, and it reminded me of fantasy more than science fiction. It reminded me of Sinbad the Sailor and Clash of the Titans, because you had snake, stop motion animation in both of those.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because you reminded me of my point that I went into my head and then fell out of my empty brain. Was Chuck Dixon was talking about what attracted him to the Alien Legion was the aliens were actually alien. They weren't just bumpy-headed humans or humans that with pointy ears. These were alien, like the Legion of Superheroes. They were heroes from all over 50 different worlds, but they were all humans. With the exception of like 4. But the Alien Legion, these are different silhouettes. These are unique beings. I kind of like that. I like science fiction where the aliens are so different. I keep talking about. Have you ever read The Lensman? I talk about that probably too much.
No.
The aliens in The Lensman were so alien that like when they both were on the same planet, like this one species, they were both on Pluto. They just ignored each other. Like they didn't know how to communicate with each other. Their wants and needs were so different that they just were like. They just stayed out of each other's way. You know what I mean? It was because they were alien. They're like, what do they want? They're like, we don't know. Just leave them alone. And they leave us alone. they want different things. They have different needs.
It's funny you should mention how different they were and they looked, because Stroman's art actually played really well into that, because he does faces and body parts, like big fat stuff and, flat faces and all that kind of stuff as his normal everyday art.
Yeah. Stroman. He's a guy that I missed when he first came out. And now I look for his stuff. Have you ever read this book, Arak, Son of Thunder?
I have a lot of them, actually. I haven't read a whole lot of them because I would just pick them up. They'd usually be in dollar bins, and they're still in dollar bins today.
You could get these really cheap. I'm sure you could get like the first issue for like $2 or so. I think I got the full run, like in one for like $15, like 1 to 40 issues or something like that. And I got to say, they're outstanding. The art is really good. And what it is he's an Indian who's the son of like an American Indian. He's an American Indian that's the son of the Indian thunder god. I don't know if he's a real thunder god, but Vikings made it to the shore, fought his family, and like captured him as a child as a slave, and then grew up as the son of a Viking. So he's an American Indian, son of a thunder god, raised by Vikings. And then he goes into like Constantinople and what are they called? The cataphracts, the horse riders. He travels all over the world. It's really, really good. Really, really good.
I always, again, what happened to John there? Well, I'll keep going. I always, again, was very attracted to that comic because...
I'm sorry. I kicked myself out.
I was just saying, I was always attracted to that comic because it reminded me of Turok, Son of Stone, or Son of Thunder, which was a Gold Key comic that we used to have around all the time.
Oh, I wonder if... well, I'm sure Roy Thomas knew that. Roy Thomas created Arak, Son of Thunder, and wrote every issue, so I'm sure he knew that. Did you ever read American Flag?
Let me put it this way. I read it off of the newsstand and then put it back when I was standing in my comic shop.
It's an acquired taste. Yeah. And it's, it's, oh, I thought I had this on the screen. It's an acquired taste. The art is outstanding. Howard Chaykin did the lettering, the art, the coloring. I think the only thing he didn't do was there was like logos peppered throughout. It was really innovative, but man, was it difficult to follow. I think it was like one of those comics that I just got as a kid just to be like, yeah, I get an American Flag, but it was difficult. It was real difficult. Like, I don't know if it's worth the work.
I was reading Blue Devil at the time.
Oh, Blue Devil. Where is it? Where's Blue Devil? Right here.
Right there.
Yeah. Blue Devil. Is this Paris Cullen's artwork? Yeah. I've always loved it. Penciler. Oh, Todd Smith. Okay. But Paris. Oh, Mike Gustovich is the inker. Yeah. I like Blue Devil. That was just like a fun, lighthearted comic.
Yep.
Hey, Edwin. How you doing, Edwin? Oh, Dirty Fat. I got to listen to the Ledsman. Is there a Ledsman? I'd re-listen to it. That's a good idea. I have 11 credits on Audible because I tend to listen to the same books over and over again because I almost want to memorize them, so I don't get a lot of books. Did you get Batman and the Outsiders?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love Batman and the Outsiders. And I was so I don't know. I wouldn't say ticked off, but I was a little disappointed when it turned into a Baxter Paper book because I could only get it in the comic shop after that instead of on the newsstand. And it was so hard to get in.
Yeah. I know you traveled. Did you grow up in New York or Wisconsin or America rather?
Oh yeah. Well, back and forth. I was back and forth.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, you. I keep thinking you're a New Yorker, but you weren't a New Yorker. So I imagine it was difficult to find a comic shop by you. Yeah,
Little farther north.
the more, the more I excuse me, talk to pros, the more I realize abandoning the newsstand was the worst thing that the comic industry could have done. Look at this beautiful Jim Aparo artwork. This is when I close my eyes and think of Batman. This is what I think. Like when I close my eyes, I think of my mother. She has a cigarette in her mouth. And when I close my eyes and think of Batman, I think of Jim Aparo. Atari Force. This is a comic that is so much better than I gave it credit. I wanted to have nothing to do with Atari Force. And Aaron Lopresti, of all people, was just like, this is a great comic. So I gotta say, it's good. It's really good. It's it's based on the Atari video game system, but that means nothing. You ever read this?
I have issues of it. I don't even remember if I have read any of them.
Yeah, it's a good story, and it's surprisingly PG-13. I won't say R, but it's surprisingly PG-13. Like they kill there's a heterosexual couple that just want to spend time together, which is odd for back then that was all the time, but these days it's odd. Look at these Captain America covers.
Yeah, Mike Zeck covers and the Captain America. Camelot 3000 always had beautiful covers too.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Mike Zeck, is it?
No, this is
it's Mike Grunwald. No.
It says Paul Neary.
Paul Neary.
I don't know if he did the cover.
No, it doesn't say.
Yeah, it says Paul Neary cover, so maybe early Paul Neary. Yeah, I loved it. Did you get Camelot 3000?
Yes, it wasn't my favorite book in the world, but it looked so beautiful. I mean, It did on the newsstand.
I mean, look, you have Mike Barr writing it, Brian Bolland artwork, but the problem with Brian Bolland is he's so slow. Yeah. I remember there was like an 11-month wait between issue 11 and 12, and I mean, they had to bring in Terry Austin as the inker, to finish the work, because Brian Bolland was so. But I mean, look at this. Tajana Wood, she's my favorite colorist of all time. John Costanza, the letterer, Terry Austin, inker, and Brian Bolland. Oh my God, it was gorgeous. I remember at the time, it was. I know this is like bad to say, but it was almost the first woke comic. It had like a lesbian romance. It had like a girl that could fight like 100 guys kind of thing, because it was so Tristan was reincarnated as a woman, and Isolated, of course, was a woman. So
I forgot about that part of it. Yes, well, they were all reincarnated.
Yeah. It was, but Mike Barr is a pretty good writer, so I didn't even think of that, but I did think it was like, should I be reading this? I was a kid at the time. I shouldn't be reading this. It was, it didn't show anything. It was, but still, back, believe it or not, guys, back in 1985, lesbians weren't the common thing that you just see on regular TV. That was like Howard Stern made like a shocking thing when he talked about that on his radio station. It was kind of like a, you didn't talk about that kind of stuff at the dinner table. Crisis on Infinite Earths #1. Wow. Look at that. I forgot Dick Giordano was the inker. Look at that. Did you of course read that?
Oh,
right?
yeah. My brother started buying those and then just got swept up in them.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Is this okay? I thought this was something else. I thought this was Steve Ditko artwork from far away. It can't be Daredevil. It's the Jester. Did you get Mr. Monster?
No. That is one book I've never actually gotten into.
Well, this is the Michael T. Gilbert. This is the the variant cover for my comic with they're having a picnic with the lemonade. People calling it the lemonade cover.
Right.
this is the same guy. I was such a fan of this book that I reached out to Michael T. Gilbert and had him do a cover for my comic. What a cool guy he was. Another New Yorker. But this is like a more humorous version of Hellboy. You know, he fights, and every issue, like, there's a little blurb that talks about his origin, and every issue it's a completely different origin. You know, it's tongue in cheek. It's pretty good. Look at this Doctor Strange cover. I remember this. Look at that. Oh, inker Terry Austin and Brett Blevins. Wow. You know, I just took it for granted seeing these and buy these comics as a kid. You know, look at all these legend. I had Tom Brevoort said something. Oh, he was celebrating his 35th anniversary of being a Marvel Comics editor. And me being a total jerk, I had to say something stupid like, oh, congratulations on being the editor for the decline of quality in Marvel Comics. You know, I wouldn't be too proud of that if I were you. And he was like, I'm sorry, comics aren't like they were when you were 10 years old. And I'm like, you should strive to make comics as good as the comics that came out when I was 10 years old. You know, look at all
beautiful
this.
Dazzler cover, John Byrne there.
The Dazzler cover. Oh, Dazzler. Is that John Byrne?
It's just for the cover.
Oh, just for the cover. Okay. Oh yeah, it says yeah. I could see the signature. Yeah, I could tell by the. He does these lines, like there's something about John Byrne's lines that I just love. I'm gonna read this tonight. I'll show this. I'll just make myself. You know,
Doomsday. Oh yeah.
This is the last new material. For some reason, issue 7 it becomes a reprint title. So I get to finish the and I think he brought it back for IDW or something.
I bought number 1 of that probably 3-4 years ago when I found it at a comic shop.
Is there an undeserved genre or one genre that should be revived, or in your opinion? I don't quite understand the question. Do you understand this question?
I think he's talking about something they don't print anymore, but I really think that they should print romance comics, quite honestly. That's, you know, instead of trying to shove everything into the superhero titles, just print romance comics.
Do you think a romance comic, like, would it bring women or girls back into?
I don't know if it would in North America, but it certainly does in other parts of the world. So I don't see,
you know,
I mean, there's precedent for it.
You're right about. I didn't think of that. You're absolutely right. I know in Japan there's erotic romance books that girls like, you know, and look at all the women reading like 50 Shades of Grey and stuff like that. You think like, okay, I mean, they don't have to be dirty. They could just be romance comics. All right, you convinced me. All right.
I honestly think that like the Archie that came out a couple of years ago, that was just a romance comic. And that's, you know, for fairly left-leaning people, but it was still just a romance comic. Because I'd be buying my books in the comic shop, and I get people walking in off of the street saying, "Do you have Archie comics?" Because they're watching Riverdale, right?
Yep.
And they're basically at that point where we're just romance comics. So yeah, there are people who will come into the comic shop for the first time and pick up something like that, if that's any indication. But whether or not it would keep, I don't know. I think it would be a secondary comic, as not something that you could have a whole line based on. But
yeah, okay, that'll be worth. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I don't know if I could write a romance comic. I have to really be interested. I don't know. I'm just, you know, lucky I found a woman to marry me. I'm like the most unromantic person in the world. The Atari Force mini comics that predated the regular series were great. Oh, great! Now I gotta hunt down something else. I thought I was all caught up. Hey, Yang Zhao, Yang. This is an open invite. If you want to come in and talk comics with us, here's the link. If anybody wants to come in, anybody, not just Tony, Dirty Fatty, anybody wants to come in. Romax comics will work for younger girls. Just look at yes. I was just bringing that up. Did you read ElfQuest at all?
I don't know. I've read a couple. I never really got into ElfQuest. It was a little bit too cartoony for me with the art.
Yeah, what's her name? Wendy Peeney. Yeah, Wendy Peeney. The art is it's different. You know, me being into all these superhero stuff, but Marvel reprinted them under, what was it, the Epic line, and I just picked it up because I was getting everything by Marvel at that point. And I got to say, it took me a bit to get into it, but I got into the story. I like the world building of it, and I like the fact that it wasn't just Tolkien elves, and it wasn't just Tolkien, like they had trolls, they had elves, but then she had different monsters. I kind of like that. But yeah, I could see the art being a hard barrier to entry.
It's funny though. I mention this every once in a while. Got to bring up John Chen's name once again, but he was trying to hook me up with the secondary artist, the one who finished off the series the last time, to do Crom the Destroyer, but he was too busy doing other things.
Oh, do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name off the top of my head, quite honestly. We only talked a couple of times, and he said just too busy.
Look at this. I just wish I could make them bigger, but this is how big the ROM comic was. So here we got Mephisto on the right, and on the left is a dire wraith from the ROM comics. The dire wraiths were big freaking deals in Marvel Comics around this time. Now, if you did you read ROM?
Oh yeah, definitely. ROM is one of the books that I always, like, I'm missing like 3 or 4. And I always, every time I go into a comic shop, I look through the ROM to see if I can find those 3 or 4.
Yeah, ROM is another comic that is much better than it should have been. It was based on a bad toy, you know, and I bought it because I that ad from John Buscema with the or was it Sal Buscema? Now I can't remember.
It was Sal.
Yeah, and I kind of copied that to make an ad for my comic, Eddie is Doomed. If you've seen that ad with the guy with the eyeball, the comet, that is a total homage to ROM, you know.
And you get into the latter ones, you even get Steve Ditko doing some of the art for them.
Yes, and it was full on Marvel, and then he was a hero. You realized how much he sacrificed. Like, you get into the character, and then I really liked the dire wraiths. Just when you think the dire wraiths are out, then you find out that the female dire wraiths are even scarier.
Exactly. That was one of the big turning points that really kept that book going, was the fact that there was 2 different kinds of dire wraiths and they were at war with each other. One was based on science, the other was based on magic. And that just shot it into the stratosphere for how backstory for the entire world, which exists within Marvel.
Right, and you see this left. This was a female dire wraith, right? Like you said, the females were into sorcery, the males were into science.
Oh, we lost John once again. I don't know what's going on. If you can still hear me, let me know in the comments.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard tonight. I saw a couple of people were complaining that StreamYard is acting weird. So that's my story. It's not me hitting the wrong buttons. It's StreamYard's fault. You know, it's not the children. It's not me who's out of touch. It's the children. Yeah. So, this Sunday on my Sunday comic show, I'm going to do G.I. Joe #1, another comic that I actively avoided. You know, it was just, I didn't like war comics. Again, movies and TV did war better than comics because, but I got to say, G.I. Joe #1 was really good. What I really liked about it, and I'll talk about it on Sunday, is they talk about why are we in G.I. Joe? Like, they says we could just, nuke the site from orbit, to paraphrase. And then the leader goes, yeah, that would be easy. But you didn't join G.I. Joe to do the easy thing, did you? And they give a big speech about what G.I. Joe stands for. And it was basically superheroes without powers, which kind of makes them a little bit more heroic.
I love that Hulk run right there in the middle. It established, well, I loved the fact that he was basically, it was supposed to be an alien world, but then it turned out to be some kind of psychic world. But at the same time, this was, I think, a retelling of the old stories of the Incredible Hulk that were originally published in Newsstand, right? It was like a revamped version of it, and I think World War Hulk was probably a revamped version of it. But this is the run that set up the entire idea that it was mental pain and suffering that actually gave him his strength.
Oh, okay. Sal Buscema, Jerry Tallock. I don't know that person, the inker, but this cover is Mike Mignola. I'd recognize that a mile away. Yeah, look at that. That is so cool. I saw some comments. Hey, what geeks do? How you doing? How you doing? Tony Grigo, Rom kicked ass. Are you going to pick up the new figure? Don't tempt me. Oh my god, I'm so tempted. I bought a couple. I collected the Marvel and DC toys for years, and when I had my apartment, I had one room that was just filled with toys, and I just, when I moved here, I put them in tubs, and I just don't have room for them anymore. So in my garage, I have like a loft just filled with tubs of action figures, toys, dolls, whatever you want to call them. And I just I can't buy anymore just to throw them in a tub, but I bought the Count Nefaria because I love that character. So every once in a while I'll buy one. But what I'm actually thinking of doing, because I'm a crazy person, is when it gets a little bit warmer, so maybe in another couple of weeks, I have a shed, where you put the lawnmower and everything, but I don't mow the lawn. I got, I hire people that come every 2 weeks and mow my lawn. So I got an empty shed. So I'm thinking of putting shelves up, and just you go out into the backyard, open up the shed, and it's just going to be action figures because I'm a 56-year-old child. Oh, I love this. This is my favorite issue of Infinity Incorporated. Did
With
you ever
Thorn
read
in it. I was just looking that up. I went to Mike's Amazing World because I couldn't see it well enough on the screen, and I just pulled this one up.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, this one's kind of sad because Don Newton, the artist, died while drawing this, and I forget who his friend was, but his friend was exclusive to DC. It's gonna drive me nuts, but I think, was it Tony DeZunga, the inker? He came and finished it for her. DC granted him like an to help him finish his buddies. They were like childhood friends kind of thing. But I just like this. They go to the island. It starts out, it's like a character-driven story. They just go into the island and, hijinks ensue, and they're supposed to be teenagers, and they're flirty, and they're going skinny dipping, and then Nuklon, a name that I just hate. I'm so glad they changed him to Atom Smasher. It's such a better name. He's like a coin-fed good boy, so he gets shy and is all embarrassed, and then they find out that Rose and Thorn, they're the same person. They live on this island, and hijinks ensue. I just love this issue. It reminds me of like those X-Men in between issues, when the big story's over and then they just play baseball. Hey, Oscar's here. How you doing, Oscar? You never do ramen in Mexico? And Oscar, at 6:30 on Friday, we're going to do another art show with Oscar. I think they're so much fun. Tony Grigo, I got to agree with you. Infinity Incorporated it never recovered from the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Agreed.
Yeah. Roy Thomas became now I'm a continuity freak. Don't get me wrong. Like, one of the reasons why I quit Marvel and DC was the lack of continuity. But Roy Thomas makes me look like an amateur, like this guy took a whole story just to describe why Namor wore black shorts in the 40s and green shorts in the 60s. Like, I don't need a story to see the guy change his underwear, but he spent issue upon issue fixing the broken continuity of because these were the Sons of the Justice Society, and Crisis on Infinite Earth retroactively erased some of them. Like the female character here, Fury, her parents don't exist anymore. So who is she? I don't know. Just tell fun superhero stories.
Funny that you should mention that, because there was a book out. I can't remember what the name of it was, probably about 5 years ago now, that was done by DC. I think Jim Lee did the art for it. Anyways, it was Thorn from Infinity Incorporated. And she basically continued on throughout the entire DC history of the future. Through all the successive ages, they wanted to incorporate them all into one timeline. So she went through the normal age of now, and then into Commandi, and then into OMAC, and then into Legion of Superheroes. And it was a beautiful book. It was great. Although it landed at, we're going to now make this new Legion of Superheroes, which I hate. But that book itself, that standalone book, it was really fun.
Oh, do you know the title of that?
Not off the top of my head.
I wonder if I even have it and haven't read it yet, because I would remember. Look at all this, like Grimjack. First comics was so good. Indiana Jones comics, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I bought issue 1 because it was John Byrne, Terry Austin, and I hated it. I hated it. And then years later, I bought 2, and now I think I'm up to like 28. Now I like it, but like, given the wisecrack comments, he just comes off jerky when it's not delivered by Harrison Ford. You know, Harrison Ford's just such a charismatic, charming actor that he could pull off that bad Han Solo dialogue. Now, can you imagine if the roles were reversed, that Harrison Ford played Luke Skywalker and Mark Hamill played Han Solo? Nobody would like Han Solo, you know, because the dialogue is so bad. Just imagine all that snarky dialogue that Indiana Jones said, but you're reading it in a comic book and it just comes across jerky.
Beautiful cowl cover there. I think that's Barry Windsor Smith.
Look at this cover. Barry Windsor Smith, right? Yep. No. Oh, that's the cover. Barry Windsor Smith. Yeah. Yeah, I recognize his style anywhere. But inside it's John Buscema.
Well, that's not a step down. Trust me, it is not.
Yeah. Look at that sword. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I just finished reading this. Doc Savage. Yeah, the first novel. It's pretty good. Set in like a hidden Mayan city. It's a lot of fun. I don't know why I'm thinking of it now. But Kitty Pryde Wolverine.
Yep.
Yeah, this is when they decided that she was going to be a ninja. I love that character. I got to excuse me. I just love that. It's a cool looking design. What did it say? I agree. Infinity Crisis took out various alternate Earths. Yeah, I don't even know what's the actual continuity of DC anymore. Like, it just changes so much that I just find myself not being interested anymore. Oh, Moonshadow. This was a beautiful comic. Did you ever read this?
No, I have never read that.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Every page was painted. I'm a big fan of J.M. DeMatteis. He's been on my channel a couple of times. You know, like he's like, you know, he's into mysticism, stuff like that. So a lot of his comics are just like, it's basically him looking for the meaning of life kind of things. It's, you know, I talked to him a few times. I don't want to ask him some questions to hurt his feelings or anything, but I'm just like, have you found the meaning of life yet? Like, you seem like you're looking for something. Like, you know, has something bad happened to you in the past? You know what I mean? What's my thoughts on Alan Grant's run on Lobo? Do you have anything to say about that?
Lobo is never a character. I said this on my channel a couple of times. I bought a whole bunch of Lobo because it was supposed to be the new great thing, but I hated the character.
Me too. There's Lobo I hate, and Deadpool I hate. Like, to me,
Agreed.
Like, I would just like to see them get a spin-off into their own comic and kill each other, you know, and then we're done with them. I never liked Lobo. To me, like I said it back in the 80s and 90s, that Lobo was what a nerd thinks a cool guy would be. You know what I mean? Which is like, just imagine, like, if a nerd guy all of a sudden got hit by lightning and got like power, he would just be an asshole. He would just be a jerk, a bully. You know what I mean? Like, and now that we have like nerds in power, we're seeing it's, you know, just, I want revenge on the world. Do you remember these religious comics by Marvel? Mother Teresa and St. Francis of Assisi, and then there was the
Pope John Paul one. Yeah.
Yep.
That was probably, I think it's one of the most printed comics ever, the Pope John Paul one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because they just reprinted for almost 30 years.
John I can't pronounce it, John Targaloni and Joe Sinnott. I didn't realize Joe Sinnott inked this. Yeah. Yeah. Pope John Paul, the last good pope. Miss Tree. Did you ever read these?
I didn't read Miss Tree because it tied into Books of Magic. So I went back and found other things because Mystery was in the Books of Magic, along with Black Orchid and a bunch of other questions.
No, you're getting confused. You're thinking of Mr. E.
Well, Mystery was there too,
No,
but I'm sure Mystery was in there.
No, Mystery is a total real. She's a detective. Her father is unofficially, because he can't say it, is the daughter of Joe Friday from Dragnet.
Oh, yeah,
It's
I'm thinking of a different character altogether then.
Yeah, it's completely realistic. There's nothing fantasy, no magic, and it's just a private detective. Like, she gets shot in one issue, and it takes her like months, almost like a year to recover. She's got like a personality problem where she's very gruff and everything. So it's funny. She's trying to flirt with somebody to get past. And the guy's just like, "What are you doing?" She's just like. And I just really, really like it. Like, if you like stone cold realism to the point, like she shoots somebody and then like she gets arrested and gets through the system and has to get a lawyer. It's not like, okay, I shot somebody in the line of duty, and then the next issue they don't even reference. It becomes a major point. I really liked it. Really liked
That's
it.
Aardvark Comics. That's a Canadian comic company.
Yeah, this is it started out, I think it was Eclipse, and then it went to Aardvark, but it kept the numbering. Aardvark Vanheim, from Cerebus, and then I think it went back to like Eclipse or First, I forget, and then it went to DC, and then it ended. But it was
might have went to First because that's probably where I'd been exposed to.
Yeah, look at this, Bill Sienkiewicz.
Bill Sienkiewicz, yep, beautiful art.
Yeah, look at
it's psychedelic at times, but when you're dealing with Warlock, I think that's the kind of thing you need.
Yeah, I always remember that when this version of Warlock, because remember there was Adam Warlock, and then he was kind of gone, and then this Warlock showed up, and this Warlock was running from his father, who was the Magus. So I was always waiting for like some sort of reveal that they were the same person, somehow transformed, but that never really happened. The art in this was beautiful, but yeah, this is when it went to the
Baxter paper.
These were so beautiful, but like, yeah, it kind of lost something when they went. I don't think I lasted too much longer with the Baxter. I think I went up to. I take it back. I probably lasted to about issue 50 because I'm so stubborn. Nexus. Did you read Nexus?
I haven't. No, that was one of the books that rarely ever saw on my shelves.
Yeah. First Comics was probably only in comic shops, but this was, I think Mike Barron's first work. And it was science fiction. But just imagine the Punisher as a science fiction hero. He killed people. It was really shocking when he just flew in and blasted somebody's head off. In the first issue. Spoiler, it was shocking. Did you ever read Omega Men?
Yeah, Omega Men was one of the ones. Again, one of the reasons why I would get into Alien Legion is because I read Omega Men.
Yeah, Omega Men. I got this because it was tied to the New Teen Titans. Like, one of the characters, I forget if he was the leader, was Ryandar, who was Starfire's brother, and they would have stories, but it was Star Wars. It was such a good comic. This I really did really like it. And then this issue with Sean McManus art, really trippy, really cool. Yeah, this was good. Pablos Marcos was the inker. He's one of my favorite inkers. Doug Mensch. I always used to say Doug Monick, but Chuck Dixon says Mensch, so I'll say Mensch. Power Pack gets a lot of crap put on it, but it was a better. It got bad later on, but at this point, Power Pack wasn't bad. Oh, look! Speaking of Rom, look at this. There's some Steve Ditko. Oh my God! Steve Ditko drawing, P. Craig Russell inking. This is Beta Ray Bill over here. Look at that. That is so good. Yeah, Oscar. They made an omnibus of Rom. You could get all the issues in one. Look at these beautiful Conan. Wow, two issues of Savage Sword came out this month. Look at that. Army of the Dead. Did I lose you, RJ?
Nope. I'm just staring at Conan.
Oh, you were so quiet. I thought maybe I lost you.
I can't believe I never knew that they would keep Sergeant Rock going past 1985. I mean, it was never something that I saw on the shelves because I had a lot of Sergeant Rock because my uncle's collection got passed down to us, right? But I never saw it on the shelves in 1985.
Look at this, issue 399. Wow. Look at that beautiful cover. Yeah. I don't think I have any Sergeant Rock comics. In all my 58,000 comics, I don't think there's any Sergeant Rocks. Look at Elite Spider-Man. Spanner's Galaxy is another thing I know nothing about. Star Wars. I'm thinking about getting these Star Trek comics. Maybe when I catch up on all my comics and everything. Star Slayer, I just bought a full run of these. I haven't read them yet. If you want me to stop on anything, just say so. Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, and I've been looking at the covers, and this is like the 4th Legion of Superhero book out this month. There was the DC Comics Presents, and then there was the Legion, and this Legion of Superhero. They're all over the place. There was a lot of these comics coming out.
Well, look at this lineup of you got writer Bindi Newell. She was a pretty good writer. I think she does novels now, but Paul Levitz did the plot. Dan Jurgens artwork. Carl Kessel inks. I mean, geez, is there any wonder people love this? Tales of the Teen Titans, The Thing. Oh, here we go. Some great Walt Simonson Thor. I know you like this series.
Yeah, I was just pulling up. My brother is visiting, and he pulled out my Walter Simonson Thor, and we were just going through them. He's like, "This is worth this, and this is worth this." And if you had kept this one in good shape, because most of mine are newsstands and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we were just going through these books.
Yeah, Lobo was first introduced in Omega Man. Yes. I think Omega Man like 11 or something like that. Kubert was an editorial, so you got to believe he had a say. Yeah. DC was like that. DC would make deals with people and stick to it. So, like, even if some comics weren't selling, like Denny O'Neill's, he had a deal that Azrael would make it to 100 issues before it got canceled, no matter what the sales, and DC honored it. Love Sergeant Rock. Unfortunately, I doubt we'll ever get anything as cool as the DC war books of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Chuck Dixon says that the 60s and 70s DC war books were some of the best comics ever published.
Yep. And I always quote Chuck when he came onto my channel. He said, "If I had to write war comics for the rest of my life, I'd be happy."
Yep. Oscar says he's waiting for his wallet to gain some weight before he gets that omnibus. That's a funny way to put it. Rom Space Nine is one of my favorite comics. Hey, Logic Finest. First off, hello. I always love your comments. Multi-layered, complex stories, great writing, sacrifice duty, good versus evil, redemption, and moral dilemma. Had it all. Everything Marvel hates now. Yes, absolutely. John, do you have any copies of Reed Fleming's World's Toughest Milkman? Funny you should say that. I just bought them. There's 2 series, so I bought the number 1 for both series because I didn't know which one was to read first, and I hated it. Oh my God! Have you ever read Reed Fleming's World's Toughest Milkman?
No.
It to me, it's a product of a bygone age, but he is such a detestable jerk. Like, I just hated him, and if I hated him, I can't get into the character. Like, he's just violent. He's mean. He just wants to get out of work. There was like nothing redeemable about it. I felt like I had to read it because I'm a crazy person. If I start to read the comic, I have to finish the comic, and I couldn't wait for a comic to be done. So I got number 1 from whatever company, and then number 1 I think from Eclipse. The Eclipse comic is at the bottom of my stack because I don't want to start it. That's how much it got on my nerves. So I'm sorry if you're a big fan of it, and I just talked about how much I hated the comic, but I'm not going to lie either.
Love that Uncanny X-Men run with John Romita Jr. doing the art.
Yeah, Dan Green on inks. Yeah. Again, look at this. Two appearances by Warlock. And it's funny how he was such a big player in these mutant books when he wasn't a mutant, right? He was an alien.
Yeah, they sort of try to make it as if he was a mutant of his race.
Oh, okay. I forget those details. I hated that costume on Colossus though. I love Colossus's original costume. Vigilante.
Did you ever read Vigilante?
Yeah, I liked what a great costume design. This is one of George Perez's best costume designs. It's so good. My problem with Vigilante is they didn't commit to the bit. Do you remember? Like he didn't kill. Maybe
the first issue is him with a gun in his hand,
right.
Like, and I'm thinking, yeah, you're correct on that.
Commit to the bit. He was a judge, and then he would go and go after. So what are you going after the people with the gun for? And then what you're gonna wing them? You know what I mean? Commit to the bit. You're a gun toting vigilante, Charles Bronson. These guys. You know what I mean? Or as my father would say, shit or get off the pot. I buy not long ago the omnibus of the FF Burn Run, and oh yeah, two good runs. What did you think, Oscar? What did you think? Some good stuff. Who is this? Paul Kuppelberg, Alex Savek, Rick Bager. Yes, super talented guys, but I think DC editorial just wouldn't let them, go full on. I'm looking at these.
Web of Spider-Man #2, beautiful book.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, my wife is home. Sorry about that. I'll turn off my. Yeah,
I didn't realize Louise Simonson did the story for that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Yeah. And it says Jones. So I guess, for those of you who don't know, she was Louise Jones. Then she married Walt Simonson and she became Louise Simonson. Gregory LaRocque. There's a name I haven't seen. Inker Jim Mooney. I love Jim Mooney. Jim Mooney's so moody. His comics his art is so moody.
LaRocque stuff always reminds me of Paul Smith's. They have this similar kind of style, if you ask me.
So I'm gonna go to February now. But that was 1 month. Look at all of those great comics. I forgot that this was 1 month. We were looking at all of this great stuff. Look.
I do have that Iraq.
I have the full run of Iraq, Son of Thunder. Where is it? Oh, right here. Yeah, look at that. He's fighting some sort of a golem. I think he was in India at this point. Next appearance, Iraq. Last appearance in Iraq, Son of Thunder. That makes no sense. Yeah. Villains. A priest of Shiva. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he was in India at this point. I just love that it was like a traveling. He would they would hear some like Roy Thomas would hear like a legend and make a story out of it. Oh God, I got. Excuse me. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Atari Force again. This Avengers. Look at this. Why isn't it loading up? Look at this. John Buscema, Tom Palmer. Tom Palmer just like overpowered whoever he was drawing. It almost became like Tom Palmer. And then, with some Sal Buscema thrown in. What are my thoughts on how James Gunn screwed up the Peacemaker? RJ, do you have any comments about that?
I never actually watched what that came on. I don't know. It was a television show, right? I never watched it. So,
yeah, I got to say, the last DC movie TV show I watched was Man of Steel. They screwed. If a DC movie screws up Superman so badly, and Superman is the cornerstone of DC, I just couldn't go forward. I watched Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman. I liked it. And I watched the first Suicide Squad. I forget why. I think I was in a hotel room and just put it on. But, I don't watch the new Star Wars. I don't watch new Star Trek. I don't watch Lord of the Rings nonsense. So, I don't know. Like, I want the new Superman movie to be good. I really do. I'm not rooting for bad movies. I'm not one of these people that like gets like a sadistic joy out of a bad movie. I want all comic books to be good. Even if I don't like the creator, I want their comics to be good. But I don't know. DC, maybe they'll. But you said he screwed it up. John and RJ, have you ever read the Uber comic series? Awesome, unique premise, great writing, beautiful artwork set during World War II. I have them all. I haven't read them yet. They look amazing. I gotta agree with you. They do look good. And Oscar, you're backing them up that Uber was good, because I bought them all, and then because they started with the U, they were in the back of my because all my unread comics are alphabetized. So I keep buying other stuff and I never get to U. So maybe I'll pull them out and read them. Insight to my insanity. I read my comics in alphabetical order. What else we got here? More Blue Devil.
It's good Beauty and the Beast miniseries.
Oh yes,
because Dazzler and the Beast basically got together in that.
Yeah, is this Strife, or is it a character that looks like Strife?
No, it's a character that looks like Strife. I don't think it's Strife.
Oh wow, Rob Liefeld. Yeah. So what? Oh yeah, this is 85. This is like 10 years before Strife. Wow, look at that. Look at that. And Nesenti. Yep. Don Perlin. Don Perlin, another guy that I love Don Perlin's art. And the inker is Kim DeMolder. Oh, okay. I haven't seen that name in a long time. Yeah, this was an interesting series. This is like one of the original miniseries. Miniseries at this point were like a new idea. More Conan, Coyote, Crisis on Infinite Earths 2. This was an interesting series. Crossfire, Mark Cavalli. Yeah, I remember this. It's Wednesday, so my wife's handing me my McDonald's. She goes to this Bible studies and then stops at the McDonald's right next door.
There's the Frank Miller Return to Daredevil.
Yeah, look at this. John Buscema. Wow, I didn't realize this was John Buscema. Look at that. Word balloons on the cover. You don't see that anymore. Right?
Yeah, definitely. It's more of a DC thing than a Marvel.
Yeah. Ambush Bug is another character I just don't like.
Dead Man, you got I think Neil Adams doing that.
Was Jim Shooter the editor-in-chief during the years we are covering? Yeah, Jim Shooter's the editor-in-chief now. Yeah. Is it any wonder they're so good? James Gunn has made the exact same film his entire career. Weird, quirky films with slight sight gags, slapstick humor, and an overbearing emotional underplot. The new Superman will be the same thing. I hear it's having trouble. I hear they're doing reshoots and it didn't do well in test audiences. I mean, I don't like the uniform. Too many lines. Superman's outfit shouldn't have that many lines. I don't like Wade, but the new Batman and Robin in the World Fine Comics, he's a good comic book writer. I don't like Mark Wade either, but I got to give credit where credit is due. Oh, here's a blast from the past. Dean Agents. Do you ever read this?
I haven't read that old stuff, but I did read some of the newer stuff because I think they had some stuff come out in the early 2000s of DN Agents.
Wow. Look how primitive it looks. That I don't know. That is just pure nostalgia for me. Oh wow. This run of the Defenders, did you Peter B. Gillis? Did you read this run?
I would dip in and out of it. I never actually bought it one after another.
Yeah, this run I always bring up because you see Iceman there. Iceman, there was a defender named Cloud, and it was this like beautiful naked chick, and she just had like vapors covering the exciting bits, and her power was she could turn into a cloud. But the thing is, when she reformed, then she was a man, and then the man would turn into a cloud and reform and turn into a female. Well, Bobby Drake was into the female cloud, and then when she reformed into a male, he was like, I can't be with you. And he's like, but what's the matter? It doesn't matter what my body is. You know, I'm still the same cloud. He's like, not into that. So if Bobby Drake was always gay or bisexual, wouldn't Cloud have been the perfect romantic partner for him? It's more proof that these people do not read old comics.
At the same time, if you go down the page a little more, they have the Iceman miniseries out at the same time where Iceman, you get to see his thought balloons, and this is where he is desperately in love with the woman that turns out to be a supervillain.
Yep. I remember this. Who drew this? Penciler Alan Cooper. Oh, inker Mike Gustovich. The reason, ladies and gentlemen, why I keep mentioning Mike Gustovich is he's RJ's inker. You know, a living legend. and he also did one of my covers too. The last variant cover of with the actual villain Dr. Robug on the cover. Grimjack. Look at all these. The Get Along Gang. This was a really bizarre comic. Did you read this issue?
I don't think I have that one. No.
Yeah, this was really bizarre. Space alien came and I think it was inspired by David Bowie, the man who fell to Earth. Just a bizarre issue. I think it even says that inside. Oh, Kathy Keene, Love and Rockets. You never read Love and Rockets, did you?
No, but Kathy Keene. I remember Kathy Keene was on probably the Overstreet Price Guide for 1982, 1981. So I was introduced to Kathy Keene.
More Miss Tree. Look at these beautiful. These were so beautiful. This Steve Leahy, and I think this cover was by Keith Geffen or Giffen. I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. But these were so, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm flattering myself thinking that there's ladies watching, but such a good run. Neil the Horse. I never got interested in this. Myth Adventures. These are pretty good. Warp graphics. I think this is in my comic collection. I don't even think issue 2 ever came out of Next Man.
That's funny because there's been like 3 different characters called Next Man. There was this one from Comico. There was the one from Marvel, which is New Universe. Then there was also John Burns stuff from Dark Horse.
And those were great. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen. Next Man is one of the best. I'll give you a minor, it's a spoiler, but it's a 40-year-old comic. It's got a great time travel element to that comic. It is. I'm very picky about time travel. Things you have to cross. You don't just make another timeline and F the consequences. Everything. There's only one timeline in my way of thinking. And if you travel back in time, it has to be there because it happened already. And they did that. And then you go back, you're like, oh, that's why that, so kudos to John Byrne for making an absolute masterclass in how to make a time travel comic. And we got the 400th issue of Sergeant Rock. Look at all these 2 months. And look at all the variety too. I know I'm skipping over like Strawberry Shortcake. We got Star Wars. We got science fiction. Oh, Shatter. This is interesting. This was the first computer comic. It was used with computer graphics. So if you can see, it's got like digitalized artwork in it. That's interesting. Now we're on the cusp of like AI making the entire comic.
Did you ever read the V series?
The V? No, I have issue 1 to 6. I don't think I've ever read them. Are they good?
I just loved the movies and the show that came out. I actually bought them just at a yard sale a couple of years ago, but it never lived up to the horror that I felt when I first watched V the movie. I was pretty young when I did that. My brothers were always pretending they were going to eat the rats and stuff like that, right?
I remember my Aunt Rose, who's no longer with us. For whatever reason, we were all watching V together. She was always over the house, and she freaked out at V. Like didn't like a woman open up her mouth and she had like a lizard tongue or something like that. She like licked her lips with like a big lizard. Oh, my Aunt Rose screamed.
I didn't realize continuity was back in 1985. Got Zero Patrol #2.
Oh, you were just talking about this last week, weren't you?
No, I was talking about Cyber Rat.
Cyber, okay. Yeah, look, beautiful artwork. I mean, it's Neil Adams.
Yeah.
Look at that. Wow, that really good artwork. This woman back here is very, very sexy, even though, she's in the background. These Zots, I've always been interested in Zot. This is Scott McCloud. I just never got them because, it just seems silly, Zot. But now after reading Understanding Comics, I kind of want to read. Are you familiar with that at all?
I know of Zot, but I never read any of them.
Again, this is just 2 months. Stop me when you want. I know you usually do stuff at 9:30. It's 9:40. If you want.
I have it scheduled for 9:45 today. So
Oh, okay. You're learning. John talks a lot. Give me extra time. And stop me if you see, because anything you want to talk about or look at. Beautiful Conan. Look
Cloak of Dagger #1.
Oh yeah, first issue. Is this the miniseries or is this the?
No, that's the full series.
Bill Mantlo, Rick Leonardi, Terry Austin.
I love Rick Leonardi and Terry Austin together.
Yeah, me too. And this is weird. I loved Kenneth Brusniak as the letterer. I even as a kid, I had favorite letterers. My favorite was why can't I think of his name? John Workman, who worked with Walt Simonson. Till this day, they still work together. Oh, look at this! Is just a classic Daredevil cover. Look at that. David Mazzucchelli. Yeah, no wonder. I think he only did like 33 comics, and they're just masterclasses. Oh, this is sad. Jack Kirby went back to DC to finish off his Fourth World story. In a rushed graphic novel. At least he got to finish it. Yeah, it got canceled, but they gave him a chance to finish it. All this Doctor Who stuff, I wasn't interested. Oh,
Dreadstar.
Yeah, more Jim Starlin. Jim Starlin always drew people so boxy.
They're still making Dreadstar today. They're crowdfunding Dreadstar comics right now.
And I haven't read them yet because I'm still finishing up my Dreadstar series, so I can't read them until I finish. Did you ever read Flaming Carrot? This is such a bizarre comic. It was actually pretty.
No,
funny.
I didn't.
It was pretty funny. More Gargoyle. This series was weird.
Yeah,
I remember reading it, but I have no recollection of it. Jonah Hex. Some good stuff. Mad Magazine. Oh my God! Look at. Oh, did you ever read this, Mage?
no.
I was obsessed with this. This was so good. Matter of fact, it's on my pile right here. I want to reread it because they made a third series. The Hero Discovered, the Hero Rebuked, and the Hero Reborn. It's so good. I don't want to spoil. I almost spoiled it, but it's so good. Micronauts. This was the second series of Micronauts. Yep, Peter Gillis. This was more like a Star Wars, or actually no, I take it back. The first series was Star Wars. This second series was Star Trek. They were just traveling and exploring their universe.
Moon Knight #1. I got that series from #1.
Why am I not seeing it?
It's up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yes. This Chuck Dixon ended up writing this later, right? Oh no, or is that the third series? Yeah, I remember this is when they gave him powers. Yeah, this is when he started getting like stronger at the phases of the moon, which is a pretty cool power for him. Kind of fits. Yeah, look. So interesting comics. Press Button. I don't know. I was never interested in that. The Rocket Raccoon series, Mike Mignola. And it's funny, at the end of Rocket Raccoon, he gets trapped in his own universe, and they're like, he's never going to come out again. Like, that was the end of the character. And now everybody and their grandmother knows the character. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been neglecting the chat. I would have. Okay, yeah. I would have loved to have lived in a world where Jim Shooter was allowed to purchase Marvel. How good would that be? If you guys could own a lesser-known character from the big two, who would it be? Oh, wow. Do you know? Logic Finder says Rom. I think he can. I think he's up for sale. Who would you own?
If you would count Huntress as a lesser character, I would pick Huntress.
Okay.
That's why I've written Cardinal. Cardinal is a blonde version of the Huntress with a different backstory for my books.
I have to say, as pretentious as this sounds, I don't want other people's characters. I want my characters. You know what I mean? Like, Are you interested in public domain characters in your books?
And when Spider-Man, I mean Superman and Batman, maybe, but just as backstory, I always say they should be good backstory. Not that I would ever want to write them into the story. I would write them into the past of the stories. Like, you know, if as if it was Superman comes into public domain, then the original Superman lived in my world at one point,
Okay.
and you know, and it died a long time ago. Right?
See, I'm such like my world has such a tight continuity. Like I don't even want to have guest stars. Like spoiler, I already brought it up. Issue 2 kind of has guest stars, but not really. But like there will never be a real Thomas Valiant Patriarch team up because your world and my world work differently. Although the more you talk about it, it's very similar to mine. So
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
All right. Well, I got to run, John. It is 10:46.
Okay, I just wanted to. Twisted Tales 3 was your first comic book. Are you okay? That's like a disturbing issue to get as your first comic. But RJ's gonna go. I'm gonna close.
I'll see y'all later.
I'll just finish talking about. I'll just address all the comments. I'm sorry that I was ignoring them. Never find all the X-Men comics. All I have is one introduction of Hellboy and 3 or 4 more. I think they're collected in a collection. They're really good. I have V on VHS. I think I only watched the pilot movie. There still are active V fan clubs today. Just like Space 1999 still has an active fan base. Good times. I was obsessed with Mage and Grendel. I love Grendel. I love the series of Grendel. I want the question. That's the most tempting. That is the most tempting. Now that you made me think about it, to the point. I have if I ever get to it, I have a question inspired character that I actually want Marcus Kelligrew to draw. I think his art style would be perfect. And I kind of want it in black and white. I would own the Red Circle characters. There's good ones. The Fly and the Shield, those are good. I would keep them, as I wouldn't incorporate them into my universe. They would be their own thing. But I do have an affection for those characters. I agree. Well, RJ's gone. I'm going to eat my junk food and go to bed. So I will see everybody. Tomorrow is RJ from Williams. He's going to be on at 7 o'clock. Friday, Oscar will be doing an art class at 6:30. And then at 8:30, we'll do It's Clobbering Time, where we're going to talk about Buck Rogers versus Flash Gordon, 2 characters that I've been reading about them at lunchtimes at work. I kind of picked it because all I really know is the Gil Gerard version and the movie version, but I'm talking about the early newspaper strip characters, so I'll learn about them. Saturday, I will be on Crenshaw's channel at 10:40 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking about my upcoming campaign for Heroic Tales 2. And then Sunday, it is Sunday Comics with G.I. Joe #1. And hail again, Zach Tan. So that's everything that's going on with me this week. And thank you guys for watching. Go over to RJ for the 4th Age now. He's going to talk about what he talks about. I'll probably be in the comment section for about another 10 minutes or so before I go to bed. So thanks a lot, everybody. And I will play my new trailer one more time and then play, the outro. So here's my new trailer.